Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda bersama saya Izzah Izlan dalam agenda Awani, dan pada hari ini kita bersiaran langsung daripada KL Convention Center di KLCC sempena dengan Mocha Fest, iaitu diadakan bersama dengan WIEF yang ke-11 ataupun World Islamic Economic Forum. Dan bersama dengan saya pada hari ini adalah seorang aktivis kedamaian dan juga artis hip hop daripada Los Angeles, Amerika Syarikat, iaitu Omar Effendim. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. So can you tell me a little bit about your involvement with the music industry there in LA and the kind of music that you sing?
So, my family is originally from Syria, and I grew up in America. So what I tend to do is kind of mix those two experiences in my music. I rap in both English and in Arabic. I use old Arabic poetry and translate it into English and vice versa. I talk about a lot of the socio-political issues that are happening when it comes to Syria, specifically just to help raise awareness and even to help raise funds for humanitarian relief efforts. That's a big part of what I do. As far as the industry is concerned, I think things are different now with the internet, so I use social media a lot to really get my message out there and build a fan base. And I'm very fortunate. I tour around the world and perform in new places, and this is my first time in KL.
Hey, welcome. Yeah. And you told me that you haven't really been focusing on the music so much before. You were like studying architecture, right? Maybe you can share with me your experience towards like getting into music for real.
Yeah, so I studied architecture at university. I graduated, worked for a firm for 10 years, but at the same time, I was kind of, as they say, moonlighting as a rapper, so my dreams, my hopes were always to kind of, push my music further. But I was very fortunate that I worked, so I didn't ever kind of feel pressure from a record label to present my music in a certain way. I had freedom to express myself.
Artist.
So I'm an independent artist, and I still am. Though I'm not working in architecture anymore, I'm doing this music full time. I just kind of did it at my own pace, and very proud of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would you say there's a monetization part to your music, or mostly it's just to kind of create awareness?
It's both. I'm making a living off of it, and I'm very proud of that. It's hard work, but I think anything that is meaningful should require some work. Definitely a big part of it as well is to raise funds for humanitarian relief efforts. But this is my art. This is my passion. This is what I make a living off of as well. So I'm constantly on the road performing, speaking at universities, hosting events. It's kind of like you.
Okay, great. And you were actually born in the Middle East, but you grew up in LA.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you still have family in Syria.
Yeah, I do. So I actually grew up in Washington D.C., but I moved to LA after I graduated university. I've been there for over 10 years now. But my family, a lot of my family is back home. My mom and my sister moved back like almost 10 years ago. Of course, since now they've left as well, since what's been happening in Syria. I still have a lot of family in Syria and Saudi Arabia, which is actually where I was born, and all over the Middle East. Even before the Syrian conflict started, Syrian people were everywhere. We'd kind of travel very kind of entrepreneurial and immigrants all over the world. And I think now there's just a new wave of that, and a huge one. Mm-hmm. And so, I just try to remind people that, that there's a human side to this story. All we see is numbers, 100,000, 200,000, 1 million. But with every number, there's a person with a heart and a soul and a story and a family, and that's what I try to remind people. And because I'm fortunate enough to speak the Arabic language and to know a lot of these stories firsthand from my family, I feel a responsibility to translate that for people, So that's what I try to do. And it's hopefully making a difference, even if it's small. Like, that's how I feel is, makes it worth it.
And how do you keep yourself updated with news from back home?
First and foremost from my family. Of course, we stay in touch, but then through the internet, the way that everybody does, even back home, that's how people stay connected with the world. And so, social media has been very, very influential in our lifetime, as you know, and it's the way that we take in not just news now, but entertainment and, everything. So actually, that's something that's really cool about Mocha Fest, is that you can kind of see what the different artists are up to just online, see what their work is about, and kind of tag them in the photos, and and continue the relationship after we leave here.
And a lot of your work are actually online. So how would you say the role of social media kind of help create awareness, and in this case, the Syrian refugees who are like making headlines all over the world?
Yeah, I think with news, it's tough. Like, as far as mainstream news outlets go, It's a lot of it is about ad revenue and things like that. The internet kind of liberated people from that kind of framework and allowed them to just focus on the news. Also in a place like Syria where you didn't necessarily have journalists allowed in the country for a long time, they depended on citizen journalism to tell the story. So a lot of brave people inside Syria were basically becoming journalists, you know, with their camera phones, and they're documenting what's happening and putting their story out there to the world. So yeah, social media has been hugely influential, and then it paralleled the rise of, you know, my career. Like I said, I'm independent, so, you know, every kind of outlet from the early days with MySpace, if you remember that, to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, all of that, you know, we use them all, and I think it's becoming much more common now for artists to have to be, you know, wear different hats and be multimedia savvy, because just that's the way the world is moving, you know. So young people are learning it just by growing up these days. And I think it also, you know, it forces that like kind of creativity, you know. There's so much you can do with the internet now. Like it just opens up a lot for artists like myself to express ourselves in a way that's much more than just one kind of thing. You know?
And how do you see music, or in your case hip hop, as a medium to kind of advocate peace, as well as creating awareness in the things that you actually fight for?
Well, you know, I mean, what's really amazing about hip hop is that at its root, that's always what it's done, you know. Even if it's not very overtly political, it's the very fact that people who are from a part of society that, you know, is often kind of forgotten or told you don't matter, they take it upon themselves to, you know, kind of make themselves and their voice heard. So that's been at the root of hip hop for a very long time. I also think that it's really what we call hip hop is something that's existed all over the world for thousands of years, even probably here in Malaysia, you know, where you have oral cultures, oral traditions, music, dancing, storytelling, art, you know, and all of that. We call it hip hop today, different technology, different kind of like languages sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's the same spirit, and that's what I try to remind people. And so that was what I was able to do with my music. I kind of took the aspects of Syrian culture, Muslim culture that I love, and I was able to infuse them into, you know, my American message. I see artists here in Malaysia that are able to do the same thing. They make their hip-hop music Malaysian, you know, in their own way, and so I think that's beautiful, you know.
So where can people find your work, your music?
Online, definitely, on you know, on YouTube, on
You can just Google you, huh?
Yeah, just Google Omar Effendum and follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter.
Okay, Omar, one final request. Can you rap a little bit? One of your music to us, please.
Okay. You should have told me before. I would have prepared. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay, don't worry.
Let's see. Okay. This is Damascus. And this is a glass of spirit comfort I love, but I'm aware of the fact that certain kinds of love can slaughter you in their wrath. I'm a Damascene being, dissect me into haves and have not, but grapes and apples fall in your path. Open my veins with scalpels, hear ancestral chants. If heart transplants can cure some of the passionate, why does mine stay torn in half then? Minarets crying tears of absence. Like trees their souls speak, years have passed them. You can hear them asking for civil rights, to live amongst tears of jasmine, as house cats take naps relaxing. This is Damascus.
Thank you so much, Omar Effendum.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's really just hours, leaving a sour taste in our mouths like generational slave names. Whenever speaking out, outspoken leaders getting taken out quicker than belligerent drunks in a bar. How we a far cry from living as one.
Hi Mia, maybe you can introduce yourself and your role in the Mocha Fest.
Yeah, sure. My name is Najmiya Zulkarnain and I am the project lead for Mocha Fest, which stands for the Marketplace of Creative Arts, which is under the World Islamic Economic Forum Foundation.
And what is the objective of Mocha Fest?
So the objective is really to merge business with the arts, so it's in conjunction with the forum, and also another large element of it is to encourage a cross-cultural dialogue and celebrate cultures and identities amongst Muslim nations and non-Muslim nations.
And how do you see Mocha Fest bringing people together and people to collaborate and also network?
Well, it's the way that we program the festival. There are certain sessions that is targeted to get the artists from different genres and different backgrounds to really work together live on stage. And that has been really, we call that the Soundscape series. It's been a signature piece and a key session that has helped to build longer relationships between the artists where they end up working together beyond the festival. And then we also have another session where we make sure to encourage dialogues between the delegates from the forum to talk about the gaps between arts in the corporate world and the artists themselves. And that's done through networking sessions. We have sharing circles, which is an informal roundtable between artists and forum delegates.
Nice. Okay, so this year you've introduced a few new elements. So what are those?
So this year we decided to open up a Mocha Souk, which is a bazaar where artists are able to sell their crafts, old and new, and then we're also working with our partners since we're in Malaysia this year, Tempatan Fest. They're doing an amazing job working with all the local brands. So we've partnered up with them as well. So we have about 30 tables and sales are good.
Okay.
And we want to encourage the artwork. So, a lot of people come here and they enjoy the artwork, but they were never able to purchase. So we thought it would have been a good idea.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure you're going to be having Mocha Fest, next year because it has so much potential, and a lot of people come here and they get inspired and they network and stuff. So what are your future plans for Mocha Fest and also WIEF?
Well, hopefully we started off this year with a pop-up Mocha Fest series, which looks at working with our previous artists to come to Malaysia and to help exchange creatively with the younger arts communities and the students and artists here in Malaysia. So we did one with Peter Sanders. He was an artist in Dubai last year at Mocha Fest. So he came here in around, I think, September. He carried the Art of Seeing, Sarawak, with, I think, about 20 young photographers and artists and students in Kuching, and you can actually see the artwork and photography downstairs here at this festival. Okay. We hope to expand in that and work with more of our network that we've fostered over, I think this is our 8th year, so we've got a large network of artists for them to come back to Malaysia and work with the scene and the communities here.
Okay, thank you so much, Mia, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan bersama dengan saya pada hari ini nak cakap sikit tentang pelibatan dia dalam bidang muzik, music industry dan juga kenapa beliau berada di Mocha Fest, iaitu Matthew Tenari dari Mauritania. Assalamualaikum. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about your band, which is called?
Band is called Nora Mintse Mali.
Nora Mintse Mali. Okay, so what sort of music does your band actually play?
Yeah, okay, so Nora Mintse Mali is the name of our lead singer, and we're based in Mauritania, so we're playing Moorish music from Mauritania, but in a modern, contemporary kind of a way.
With a twist.
With a twist, with like a psychedelic rock, funk kind of a tilt to it. So.
And you're actually original from the States.
Exactly.
From the United States, but then you moved to Senegal. Can you share with us the experience? Yeah.
Sure. I'm from the U.S., from Philadelphia originally. Studied jazz drums, and I've always been I'm the drummer in the band as well as the manager. So I moved to Senegal to study Wolof, and
Wolof is a language, right?
It's a language spoken in Senegal, and started working with musicians, and eventually it led me to Nora and Jaish, who's our guitarist, and the music of Mauritania, which has never really been exported very much, and it was just very quickly the most fascinating project I was involved with. Mauritania borders Senegal to the north. It's in the Sahara Desert, so I was traveling a lot between Senegal and Mauritania, and gradually the project developed momentum, and for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, we've been touring internationally in the States, in Europe. We're here in Malaysia and Asia for the first time. And certainly lots of dates around Africa as well.
And it's interesting that you actually studied language, right? And the music in itself is a language.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
That was. I think especially for percussion, there's a rhythm that's sort of innately in each language, the way that syllables kind of land. And so that was always one of the things that interested me in language, was to be able to sort of understand the rhythm of a particular language, to be able to play it. Yeah.
Okay, and you have traveled all over the world for the past 5 years, right?
With the
band.
Yep.
And what have you learned, traveling to all these countries? How does it inspire you, seeing people with different cultures, different religions and different backgrounds? So does it inspire you, and do you translate it into your music?
Sure, yeah. I think it's always interesting to see how the music relates to a particular context. I mean, we're sometimes playing in very formal events like this one. Sometimes it's in a small club, and it's a very compact audience, and that's a very different energy. And so I think having a wide range of performance contexts like that is something that really allows an artist to develop a lot, because you're always having to adapt to different circumstances.
Yeah.
And so certainly internationally, the audience you're going to find in Algeria is much different than the audience you're going to find in California.
Do you sort of adapt your music to the audience that you perform?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I think if an audience responds, it provokes a different sort of energy from the band. When you have an audience that's very reactive and they're up and they're dancing, it brings out a different sort of flavor. If you have an audience that's more sort of reflective and seated and sort of listening, then maybe we sort of play to that a little bit more.
So, what is your short-term planning or like a long-term planning with this band?
Sure. Okay. Short-term plan is in February. We'll be on our next North American tour, playing all across the U.S. and a little bit in Canada. And in the summer, probably back in Europe. We're playing around in Mauritania and in Senegal.
And does your music carry a certain theme?
The next album is
wow.
probably coming out in fall of 2016.
For people who are curious about your band and the music that you play,
Sure.
where can they go to find out about you guys?
It's on all the regular platforms. You can find it on iTunes. It's available on vinyl through the record label Glitterbeat. This is cover looks like this.
Oh, this is the album. This is
Tizeni.
Noura right there.
Yeah, this is Noura. And yeah, it's the name of the album is Tizeni.
Okay, so they can just Google your band name and they'll find you guys, right? Okay.
NouraMintSaimali.com. You can find
anything there.
All of the
Okay, thank you so much, Matthew.
Thank you.
This is
Yeah.
Matthew. Dan bersama dengan saya adalah pada ketika ini Scott Liddell daripada Turquoise Mountain yang berada di Afghanistan, dan dia di sini untuk mempromosikan kerja-kerja humanitariannya di sini. Assalamualaikum.
Hello,
and ahlan wa sahlan.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
Okay, so can you tell a little bit about the Turquoise Mountain movement that you've been a part of all this while?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Turquoise Mountain Foundation is a not-for-profit organization working in Kabul in Afghanistan. It was set up in 2006, and it was set up to preserve Afghanistan's heritage. So it began in the old city of Kabul, where there are 18th and 19th century buildings made of earth and wood in traditional style. So these buildings were collapsing when we arrived in 2006. So we began to restore them with the local community. And then out of that grew a whole project to preserve and transmit traditional craft skills. So we set up an institute that trains Afghan artisans in woodwork, calligraphy, ceramics, jewelry making, these kinds of crafts. And now when these artisans graduate from our institute, we support them to set up businesses and earn livelihoods through their crafts.
Mm-hmm. So you actually have to go, you have to be in Afghanistan to actually identify these artisans and also kind of like provide help to them, right?
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
guidance.
right. So I live full-time in Kabul in Afghanistan along with other colleagues. Most of our colleagues are Afghans who are, of course, living in Kabul anyway. So we are there full-time working day in, day out with the artisans there. And that's really how we managed to build these relationships with the artisans and understand their needs. You know, do they need help to improve their designs? Do they need help to improve the quality? Do they need help to access better raw materials? Or do they need help with their marketing? You know, it can be different depending on the artisan and the stage of development of their business. So we have to understand that so we can then help them in the right way so that they can, you know, eventually produce better things, better quality, and sell more.
Yeah, and then sustain themselves at the end of the day, right? You know, for Afghanistan is like awfully different from Malaysia, as you can see. It's a little bit more unstable, and maybe you can illustrate a little bit for our audience who can't imagine what it's like to be there and to be in such a state where every day you wake up and you don't know your fate, you know?
Yeah.
Like, maybe you can explain a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, people from the outside have certain perceptions of Afghanistan. You know, it's a country of conflict, of corruption, of chaos. It's known sort of 30 or more years of instability now. But what we're doing with these beautiful artisan products and the artisans that we work with, their incredible stories of resilience and creativity is to show a different side of Afghanistan. And it's to say, well, actually, yes, there may be instability and so on, but at the same time, there are people who are being creative, who are being dynamic, who are optimistic about the future, and, you know, producing beautiful objects in a rich tradition. Afghanistan has a rich tradition of design, Islamic heritage. So, you know, this is another face of Afghanistan. And by getting these products out there, having this showcase here in Kuala Lumpur at the Mocha Fest and the World Islamic Economic Forum, these are exactly the places where we need to be showing this other face of Afghanistan.
And for a non-profit organization, how do you monetize, you know, your foundation?
Yes, I mean, we are a not-for-profit organization, so all our support that we get from either private donors or governments or from the sales of products go back towards supporting the project, so go back towards supporting Afghan artisans. And our aim really is to create a sustainable Afghan artisan sector. It's not about our own organization really, we are just a way to help that sector. So the proceeds from the sales of products, you know, all go back to the Afghan artisans.
Mm-hmm. And what do you hope to do in the future? You know, now that you've started since 2006 and you've seen these artisans grow and learning to actually sustain themselves. So, what do you hope to do in the future?
Well, I mean, Afghanistan still has a long way to go. So the artisan sector was in a really bad state 10 years ago when we arrived, and many of the skills were being lost. Those skills are now being preserved and transmitted through our institute in the old city. But there's still a long way to go to create a really thriving and robust artisan sector that can employ tens of thousands across Afghanistan. And to do that, we need to create the demand for Afghan products. So at the moment, you can buy Afghan jewelry in London and New York and Dubai.
It's everywhere. Right?
Well, it's in a lot of places, but it's not everywhere yet. So, you know, we want it to be in Malaysia, we want it to be in Indonesia. You know, that's the next stage, is we really need to get into more markets, get the name out there of Afghan products and begin to change people's perceptions, so that when they think of Afghan-made products, they think of beauty, creativity, craftsmanship, heritage, these kinds of things.
Okay.
So that they then buy and keep supporting the artisans.
Okay, thank you so much and good luck, Scott.
Thank you.
Ini dia Scott Liddell daripada Turquoise Mountain, Afghanistan, dan saya Iza Izlan adalah pemenonton agenda Awani dari KL Convention Center. Assalamualaikum, bye.